What is up, you guys, and welcome back to Cryptographics. And today I have a very exciting stream for you. This is one that is going to be the first of its kind for the TITANX ecosystem. And I'm going to have 4 out of the founders here today with me to talk about the first TITANX protocol to be built for PulseChain. Now, if that doesn't get you excited, I don't know what will. You should probably just leave. Just kidding. Stay, please. This is going to be an awesome stream. I'm really excited for it. And I'm going to bring on the founders right now. You may recognize some of them. You may recognize them from a different ecosystem. Tell me what you think here in the comments or in the chat. GIF, Crypto Kool-Aid, Crypto Derp, and Kinetics. Welcome, my dudes. How you guys doing? Thank you for being here.
What's going on?
Our pleasure, man.
Great. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, of course. I'm really looking forward to this, and it's funny to see you guys be the ones that are building this on TITANX in its own right. And before we get into, there's so much to talk about because PULSAR in itself has a massive deep dive that we can do on so many fronts. I want to get the audience a little more familiar with PULSAR and what it is with a little sizzle reel that's been floating around. And let's just get right into that. And then we can do the deep dive. So, okay, guys, if you don't know what PULSAR is, check this out. Epic. I love that.
I get the feels every time I hear it. Every time I watch that video.
It's so good. I did a great job. We did a great job. And Gifford even did the AI generated movies to start. So it was a team effort.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I love that. So if we can start with a brief overview of, okay, what and why is PULSAR real quick? And I guess in simplistic terms, just to start, before we really start going off the deep end as to, the PULSAR pathway and maybe the permable and all that juicy stuff. So why don't we start with just like a quick overview of PULSAR real quick. What is it?
If you want to go ahead.
Sure. So PULSAR, in a very simple way, let's just say that the idea is we want to be able to migrate value from Ethereum over to PulseChain in a seamless manner that doesn't require any major whales to implement. So we've got kind of a four main things we're trying to accomplish. So there's that. There's permeable tokenomics, which we could talk about a little bit more later. We want to be good stewards to the TITANX ecosystem, and by doing so, we're going to burn TITANX. So one of the major incentives for anybody to build on TITANX is to burn TITANX, right? So create some sort of protocol to incentivize people to burn their TITANX and lower that supply. And then also we want to create a foundational launchpad over on the PulseChain ecosystem. One of the things that really kickstarted the whole thought process of building on TITANX and PulseChain is the Ethereum gas fees, and we're starting to really see that in real time. And we could dig into that a little bit more later on too.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Another point we wanted to build is an infrastructure flat system that allows not just utility to be built across, but lays milestones that we can build into, other people can build into, and sets fair launch onto PulseChain as a flatbed across the board for everyone instead of dealing with sacrifices and the rest.
I think that's so cool, the idea of building a launch pad on a launch pad, or not on a launch pad directly, but leveraging the power of one launch pad to build your own version of a launch pad, because it's not like taking TITANX and copying it in any way. It is a very, very, very different system, and because that's what it is. It's a system too, right? It's not just a token with a bunch of game theories stuck onto it. As I know, probably just triggered.
He just cringed a little bit when you said game theory. So
Well, the funny
So
thing is that Titan actually does have game theory because it's systems and mechanics that are built on core components that have been tested in the past. That actually does have the term game theory, but it's really mechanics. But using that is technically more game theory than not.
right. Well, still, I love the fact that the system was designed to, leverage two very powerful pieces. You got ETH, which obviously that's its own beast, and TITANX. But what's really cool is that you guys are going to be able to leverage both of those and go to a place where the gas fees are going to be very user friendly. Like a penny, 2 pennies, maybe. I don't know how high gas fees are ever going to go on PulseChain, but I think that's super innovative, and I love that you guys are the first ones to do it. But now that we got an overview. So now PULSAR is going to be minted with. Wait, so I don't actually think we've gone over this. So how do you create PULSAR? How does PULSAR come into this world?
I think that's the most important thing to start with here, so that people get the basics, and then we can get into all the strategy, tactics, and all the mechanisms built on top. And we're going to leave a lot of that to your guys' imagination. So good luck, guys. I want to see what you guys come up with how this thing can really evolve an ecosystem and push DeFi forward, especially off the fair launch basis, which we saw this, and we saw the opportunity to go ahead and build something that would enrich DeFi and maybe change the narrative and start a whole new experimental phase. But going back to PULSAR, what you're literally going to do is you're going to take, it's a ratio of how much TITANX you're going to be running through our protocol, and the protocol fee will be based in ETH on top of the amount of TITANX that you're running through. So if you take it's like 10 million, I think what is it, 10 million TITANX? I'm breaking it down. I'll start with what we originally decided, and then I'll let you guys know that you can still participate with a lesser amount. But we wanted a ratio of about 1 billion TITANX to 1 ETH. So if you're going to run 1 billion TITANX through our protocol, it's going to cost you 1 full ETH. So if you've got only 10 million TITANX, it's going to cost you 0.1 ETH, or 0.01 ETH. So it's just a ratio. It's a function. Once you put in the amount of TITANX you want, the UI interface, thanks to Crypto Derp here, is going to make it automatically update with what that is going to cost you with the Ethereum cost. As you do that, then there's going to be a bucket of ETH, which 90% of it buys and burns PULSAR through the PULSAR WETH pool that we're creating at creation with keys renounced. There's no way for anyone to rug that. It's locked liquidity. We know that's the standard for this ecosystem. We really like that idea. We want people to know that liquidity is not going anywhere. The only way you're going to exit out of it is if you're selling the token to get that WETH. So yes, it is expensive, and it's that way for a reason. So we'll get to that. That's part of the mechanics and why it is what it is. And quite honestly, Adam, par for the course. Well, your gas fee might exceed that and come this bull run. So the protocol fee may be nothing compared to your gas fee later. And that's part of the reason we built PULSAR, is that we, as Hexakins, original Hexakins, know that come this bull run, TITANX is going to come to a grinding halt when it comes to certain functions being called on it. And for good reason, because it's going to just be priced too many people other than the whales out of the market. And so that's why we came up with this. So we've got 2 liquidity pools. There's not only the PULSAR WETH pool, that is a 90% of that ETH that runs through the protocol fee is a buy and burn. So it's the highest buy and burn in the TITANX ecosystem. Then we also have a PULSAR TITANX pool. So if many of you guys are aware of the code with TITANX, there's not a whole lot of discussion from all the streams I've listened to on the TITANX ecosystem. But especially early on, it was talked about a lot more, that Jake discussed that there's a 8% cash back for all of the TITANX that's burnt through the protocol. There's a cash back percentage. And that amount is 8% that the devs can do whatever they want with it. I like the ethos of the TITANX community, that they understand developers need to get paid. But we decided not to take that as a payment. We decided to roll that through the TITANX PULSAR pool and buy and burn PULSAR. So that's 2 burn pools with 2 liquidity pools. So you guys have multiple different ways to come in and out. As we saw with Dragon X, when someone wanted to get into Ethereum, they had to sell down the TITANX price because that was the quickest and only real liquidity pool that existed. They were selling their Dragon X for TITANX, then TITANX for Ethereum, and that TITANX to Ethereum, not only was that extra cost and gas to hop that, but it also happens to affect the price of TITANX, since that's where the major liquidity pairing is with TITANX and Ethereum. So we wanted to give users multiple ways, but we also wanted to try to roll back as much of the value in the ecosystem into the buy and burn for PULSAR. Now, when you do run that billion, let's use a nice even round number. When you do run that billion TITANX through our protocol, only 50% of it is actually getting burnt. So if you run that through, you're going to get 250 million PULSAR instantly in your wallet. It's not going to be locked for 8 days. It's not going to be locked for a week. It's not going to be locked for 380 days. Instantly, you can do whatever you want with it. Now, the beauty of that is that the instant that you paid that protocol fee to get those tokens, what you paid in protocol fee is going to inherently increase the value, I think is the best way to put that. Increase the value of the new token that you just received. Now, the other 50% is why we called it the PULSAR pathway. The other 50%, the contract is going to mint 125 million PULSAR that nobody gets access to. And it's going to pair it with the other half, the other 500 million TITANX that you just ran through the protocol. And it's going to bridge it across through the most battle-hardened bridge and proven bridge in the ecosystem, in all of crypto, the fork of the Omni bridge, the Richard Hart PulseChain bridge. It's going to go through the other side, land in a contract, and we're going to have a call function where it automatically puts it in the correct ratios into a PulseX V2 pairing. The reason we chose a PulseX V2 pairing instead of, say, 9mm with their V3 single-sided liquidity and things and options of that nature is because on a V2 it uses the actual fee to add to the pool so it automatically builds that liquidity pool instead of having to have an additional function to buy and burn to increase the value in that. We want that arbitrage opportunity between the PulseChain side and the Ethereum side. So if you've only got Crypto Kool-Aid did a great job of explaining this on Sunday when he said there's a DCA opportunity on PulseChain. So say the price is just a little bit cheaper, or if it's even the same on PulseChain versus what TITANX or PULSAR is worth on Ethereum, people can come in with $100 and not hit the huge gas fees and hopefully have a deep enough liquidity pool at that point in time that they are going to not receive as much slippage. So they'll actually get more TITANX or eTITANX, I should say, because it's a wrapped version, or PULSAR over on the PulseChain side versus the Ethereum. There's going to be a lot of people who are going to know how to play the game and make money on moving back and forth between the two chains.
And I wouldn't be surprised if I could just jump in for a second on that.
Of course.
I wouldn't be surprised if on PulseChain, and there's so much I have so much to reflect and make sure that I heard right and kind of go over. But on that note, specifically with PulseChain, it wouldn't surprise me if the price on PulseChain was a little bit higher because the gas fees were lower. Because it should be. Am I saying that right? Maybe I shouldn't do math on stream.
No, yeah, I think you're right. I think there could be a premium on the PulseChain side because then you're not paying $50 to swap into it. Mm-hmm. So the people are going to be a lot more likely to want. And it could go the other way too. So that's the thing about crypto. It goes both ways. What if it is the same price, but you know what? I've got a bag of it over here on PulseChain and it costs me a lot less to sell it. And that's fine too. That's the beauty of fair launch tokens like this, is that the market decides their prices. The team is not promising you gains. We're not doing anything. The protocol runs the way that it runs. And if you as users use the protocol correctly, there's a huge potential for gains on this, but that is completely up to you as the user on how you use the system. So hopefully there's good stewards that use it. And there's going to be people, we always see it. There's always going to be the Jeets that wreck themselves, that sell lower than what they actually acquired the token for. And maybe it's because they see a shiny new object that they want to go chase, and that's fine. That's actually a really good thing for us. We want that arbitrage opportunity.
Yeah, and I think to dovetail into that, like people want to have promise of expectations of work from later, or gains. I can tell you one thing: you can expect proper mechanics from us across the board consistently that are not forked, that are 1000% original, with the best team, the best tools, and the best use case, because that's just how we do things. And when you do that, you set the narrative to drive things in a different direction rather than just forking an idea or borrowing on something else. You can study it and it can influence you, as it should. But to actually put it into play and stamp your rubber stamp on it, that this is Pulsar, this is our team's work, it sets the bar in a different direction, which I think crypto has been, I think all of us think crypto has been walking in a parallel line for a long time, that originality and creative exploration of different ideas to build DeFi for all has been getting stagnant. And that's a big tenement that we want to fix.
I mean, think about it. DeFi has only been around for how long, and traditional finance has been around for hundreds of years. I mean, if you go back to merchant vessels in England creating corporations and selling stocks to finance their journey, it's like that's, you know, really the creation of markets, so to speak, that weren't commodities. And so with DeFi, we're so brand new here. This is all experimental, guys. And so let's go forward, try to build the best thing we can, break it, find where the leaks were at, which we've already seen in every system that's been built, and try to harden those systems and create a real DeFi system going forward. So this is not just an opportunity for you to participate in something that also enhances the ecosystem you already love, but also an experiment and a way to maybe find the next better thing that we can build on top going forward.
Absolutely.
Love that. I love that. And so if I can just make sure for the audience, at least, we'll just repeat that back real quick. So we've got the ETH protocol fee and TITANX. So that's going to be $1 billion to 1 ETH for TITANX. 50% of that gets burnt. Now the contract then takes the other 50%, moves it over through the Pulsar pathway. I love the name. And then moves it over to PulseChain and sticks it in a liquidity pool over there with TITANX at a ratio. And it's going to do the same for now. How does the liquidity pool get created in the beginning for the TITANX side, or sorry, the ETH side?
So, well, on both sides, we're going to have to create some of the tokens. So there will be an initial mint of the token just so we can pair it and lock it in the liquidity. It's going to be locked on both PulseChain and the Ethereum sides, but none of the team, none of the founders get any of that ratio or any of that newly minted token, because we truly believe in the fair launch. Like, we have to participate in this protocol to get any of this token, just like you guys as the user do.
Right.
Yeah, you touched on it right there. It's the founders are making the sacrifice at the beginning, which is not completely unheard of. We've seen other projects do the same thing, but with the liquidity, there's a couple of things to keep in mind. The pre-minted Pulsar that only happens the one time, as far as what's going in the liquidity pool, is paired with what funds have been sacrificed from the team, right? And then permanently locked there. So we're sacrificing into the protocol that will be permanently there to be used for people to trade and for a protocol to work off of, right?
So yeah, we even have less of a participation option now because we've used so much economic energy to set up liquidity pools that you guys as the user actually have the advantage to moving into this first.
So if I can make that real clear, you guys are the ones putting up part of what's going into the liquidity pool. You're sacrificing your own funds to make this happen, like literally putting them on the line, not just to create everything, but literally putting them into motion with this whole ecosystem so users can actually participate. That's what I just heard.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. For a fair launch, as well as be, fronting up for the devs, making sure that we have the best artists, make sure we have the best situations that we need. Everything across the board is for the system, for the community, for what we believe, as anyone that's listened to DS over the past 4 years, is DeFi for all. And we believe in that intrinsically. And, as Richard said, if you want to live a better system, you have to build it. And so when we saw the mechanics that were possible with TITANX, it's stuff that, Kinetics and Gifford know. I've been writing decks on this type of stuff for a long time. And I'm like, we can work with us. And it's the perfect opportunity with the bull market, with the season that we're in, et cetera, to bring multi-tiered leverage, not leverage is the wrong word, seesaws or weighted systems from Ethereum into PulseChain, because the gas fees are going to cripple everything that's going to be done on Ethereum. However, proof of Ethereum, which is what Titan is, remember, T-share is proof of time. Proof of Ethereum, theoretically, is how the inception of TITANX is created. But we can take that proof of Ethereum and then bind that back into PulseChain, and then use this as the cog to set the example of a whole bunch of things to come. Like, This is just simple game theory, well thought out. But when you have a simple game, you can expand on that particular game from chess to checkers, right?
Which will leave you guys to speculate what that's going to be. That expansion is going to be in the future. So,
and we may get there a little bit in this stream of talking about, like, you know, maybe what the potentials could possibly be. Maybe we'll get to some discussion of that. But first, I wanted to back up.
Can I address something real quick from Adam? I love what he wrote in here. He says, what stops individuals from just bridging eTitan to PulseChain and swapping into PULSAR to bypass the ETH protocol fee? Tip of the hat to you, sir. Yes, that is brilliant. We love it. ARB opportunities everywhere with this. And we want that on purpose because we think it's necessary for a healthy market.
Absolutely.
So this, I do want to touch on one thing. I'm stealing GIF's thunder and I'm dominating the conversation right now. And I apologize for that. But I just want to say GIF was the one that realized this, that we have an opportunity to use a hyperinflationary system that already exists, a fair launch system that is going to become deflationary and has actually already started becoming very deflationary very quickly, that we can actually have coin creation versus inflation. So there's no inflation in PULSAR. It's only coin creation. And it's got a fixed supply based upon the amount of available TITANX and ETH out there able to run through this protocol. So
that was probably go ahead.
It gives people the opportunity to participate while somewhat fixing the supply and not having to inflate it into ad infinitum.
That's actually one of the more complex components that we bootstrapped from Titan, is the fact that it is fair launch. It has this inflation model, and we're using the hooks as it used the hooks from a T-share to build back onto that cyclical circle or circular loop, as I like to talk about. Those are very fundamental tenements in building games and understanding the art of play, which is the art of life and how we experience it. And that is paramount on how we flip that back over on how we created our system.
And I think one thing to really keep in mind here for the viewers is, if you understand TITANX, if not, it's totally fine. But TITANX is hyperinflationary, but then it becomes very disinflationary very quickly, and eventually is due to become deflationary. Why is that important? Well, it's one half of a whole, but if you have a token that's basically designed as what is required to create a token, and that's getting hyper difficult to create over time, what does that do to the value intrinsically of the token you're creating with it? Well, it should raise the floor, right, in terms of what people are willing to sell it for. There's always the people that are willing to sell it for far less, than should be rational, but I mean, it is what it is. But then what happens is, when you pair your protocol token with that token plus something that is already valuable and is only going to increase in value over time as well, you kind of create this compounding effect of value that one holds the other up, and they kind of leverage each other upwards. So it's really important to understand the system, or the value of these two tokens over time and what they're going to do to understand the possible future of PULSAR. And I think that alone, in just one aspect, is exciting in and of itself. But then if you also add on the idea that this is an infrastructure token, and that speaks a lot in terms of, okay, this is a launch pad, as you guys said. This is a layer one for the next ecosystem to be built on top of for over on PulseChain. And so you have this infrastructure being built that is going to get very, very difficult to acquire in large numbers very quickly, because TITANX is already getting very difficult to acquire. And so you have a launch pad that's leveraging a launch pad that's getting even more difficult to be built. And if that ecosystem, which I am sure there's going to be a ton of people, aside from even just you guys, that are building really cool things, PULSAR could become even more rare than something like TITANX. And I think even that possibility is important to understand when thinking about this as well.
Oh, it will be. Even if 100% of the TITANX was run through this protocol, you're still essentially 1/4 of that amount will be available to you in your wallet. So it's already, and we don't have any other way to inflate the token. Like, it's all based upon what you're willing to give up in economic value with TITANX and Ethereum.
Yeah, and to point to that, if either Giff or Ken wants to go through that, what Crypto Compassion just said, a floor, but it's actually a ceiling. Because if you've actually done your homework for the Casahedron or tuned into our fireside chat that we did over on Telegram the other day, we kind of went through in depth on why the icosahedron system is an important tool to study, understanding both mechanics, throughput of a base layer system, on how Alex took a T-share, wrapped it, and then built utility and throughput, and again, loops on top of it.
I would agree 100%. I think that, if I can speak for myself here for a moment, I think icosahedron, that, I mean, hex was the thing that gave me an understanding of some serious, like just systems and how you can leverage and basically build a crazy, completely sealed system that works incredibly well. And then when icosahedron came out, that was, I think, the thing for me that, and I don't know if I'm alone here too in this chat, in this group, but I think icosahedron really set my brain in the right direction when it comes to understanding these concepts and being able to see and work or able to understand systems like this and how they can build into the future. I think, because I know GIF, you and I were streaming very early. We were talking in the TG. You were deep into icosahedron for quite a while, so I know you can definitely speak to the power of what you've learned, because we've had this conversation too off stream here, is of how much icosahedron really influenced your understanding and learning in this space too.
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. Like, yeah, you and I in particular have done a stream on Icosa back in the day when that was coming out. And yeah, that was an inspirational time for me. Learning that much about a complex system and being able to, pull Alex aside essentially whenever he was cool with it, which was quite often. We've had many, many talks, and be able to bend his ear over the time period that he allowed me to. Was amazing. And yeah, it really jump started this whole thing. At the launch of Hedron, that's when I was like, all right, it's time for me to start learning to develop Web3 and write smart contracts and really dive in deep. And I've spent the majority of the last couple years spending a majority of my time doing exactly that. And, really understanding the deep complexities of building on in a cryptocurrency environment, along with having these gentlemen on stream with me and others help me in that process has been it's been incredible. But yeah, you're absolutely right. We learned a lot from the Icosa ceiling, that ratio between Icosa and Hex. And I in particular learned a lot about that. And there was a lot of mechanics that I was like, there's something that we could do here. There's something we can do here. And what compounded that was watching Zen launch. And the whole idea of fair launch crypto, very enticing. But then we got, as Larry likes to say, it's a perfect example to watch, like an experiment to watch and see how it plays out, right? So now we have this understanding, right? And so we got this understanding, and then TITANX comes out where now it's okay to fund developers. It's okay to launch fairly and make sure that developers get paid, and there's no reason to shun developers from building, because that's what we need in cryptos. We need more skilled developers building. So TITANX became it's still the only ecosystem to really launch off of, because if you launch off of TITANX, you get the advantage of the fair crypto launch, right? So everything that runs along with fair launch cryptocurrencies will inherently be retained by PULSAR, and anything that's built off of PULSAR, and in particular, possibly what could be built over on PulseChain.
Correct. And that's that. Again, free simulations are so important, and you shouldn't copy it, but you should digest it. Just like you needed to understand really, anything up to 2017, 2018. If you really didn't get that Bitcoin was a fractionalized asset, I know I didn't put in the damn homework to really digest it. I saw its ticker price, and I realized I couldn't afford said sticker price for one piece of bubblegum. Didn't understand the whole concept from there. And then, time in, it took us 6 months to really understand a T-share. And, I was talking behind the scenes with wrapping things to a T-share, but I'm art and I'm design. I'm not program. Once Alex did that, we really had more hooks that we can actually sink into the system. Zen was a very brilliant example of sometimes how moving a little too fast has problems, but it can build brilliance in what it does. And that gave a hard, interesting nugget for us to chew on while we were looking at the TITANX ecosystem. Because fair launch, if you're really looking at redacting what the OA's importance is, regardless if you like Richard, regardless if you don't like tokens sitting in something that may or may not move. Almost all cryptos has 20% for the tween, 20% for the marketing, 20% for this and that, and all the rest of that. So realistically, a lot of things have a lot of dumpamentals, and pumpamentals about understanding simulations and breadcrumbs and applying them in a carrot and stick scenario that actually have meaning, method, and measure.
Mm-hmm. And one of the things I want to highlight here is just how much you guys have like put in work and studied, and you guys have really brought yourselves all to a level, and I believe held each other accountable to a very high level as well. I mean, Crypto Derp, I mean, look at the work that you've done as well, and I'd like to bring you into the chat.
Yes.
On all fronts, you're the branding and marketing guy, and I think if you look at everything from obviously even this conversation and how you guys are, how articulate you guys are, how well thought out, how well designed PULSAR is, and then you look at the white paper, and then you look at the design of the UI and the branding and everything, I think that speaks volumes about you guys. And I'd love to find out just a little bit from you, Crypto Derp, on just the design and kind of what goes into building this, and maybe a little bit, even a little bit of background on how you linked up with these fine gentlemen and got involved with PULSAR.
Fine gentleman is a loaded term, by the way. Just want to throw that out there.
Just gotta say it on stream, but off stream, obviously, yeah.
Well, big things have small beginnings. Can you guys hear me? Is everything coming through?
Yes, right. Thank you, sir.
Sounded good, bud.
Just double checking. Honestly, it kind of started with Crypto Kool-Aid over there and myself back in LA when we were working together. And we've always kept touch since then. And, we go back and forth since I think 2017 when it came to crypto. So it was kind of weird too. We both kind of spontaneously kind of got onto it. None of us kind of talked about it. Nothing really. We just kind of one day spoke, and we're both like talking about, Bitcoin and whatnot and this amazing technology. We're latecomers, obviously, being in 2017, but nonetheless, it was just the thought, the philosophy behind it, everything else between resonated. I know with me anyways. So thus the journey of going down these many roads and then kind of leading to where we are now, where, we're together here as a group. And this is the kind of like the start of it. So Kool-Aid hit me up and just said, hey, I have something you might be interested in. And kind of connect everybody together. And then, sitting there, just listening to the name PULSAR, I was like, all right, that's just, when it comes to branding, I thought that was perfect, right? You got 6 letters, 2 syllables, like it's good. That right there. And that kind of started the journey of, well, what the hell is a PULSAR? So sitting there for a bit, Googling, getting an idea of just kind of like the basics of what it is. And from that point, I don't know, I'll bring over my sketchbook here. If you guys can kind of see it a little bit. Yes, no, yeah, a little bit kind of coming through, but not really. Hold on. Oh,
there we go. Lots of renditions for sure.
Yes. So going through and just kind of sketching some ideas and getting an idea, because again, PULSAR, you have like a north and a south pole to it. You have, some renditions and renders of it has like this kind of burst of energy shooting out, like kind of on a horizontal plane. And then also kind of incorporating the idea of the iconography of the Ethereum logo. So, again, you have that like that north and south pole, the Ethereum logo. And if you kind of concave the Ethereum logo inward, you start to kind of get that that vanishing point of kind of like a power stream going off into a distance. And then obviously in the center, you kind of have that explosion of that horizontal ring going outward from the center. And then that kind of more or less generated what you see there as the logo. And then obviously incorporating the Titan green with kind of our blue. And that kind of just evolved into that point. On top of, sitting there and talking with GIF and Kool-Aid and the rest of the group just to get more general ideas to kind of make this happen. We made a ton of renditions. Those sketches were nothing compared to kind of like what the output was inside Illustrator, all the different fonts that we kind of went through to kind of generate what you see here. There was a lot of R&D involved just to kind of create that iconography there.
Well, you can see how much work you guys put in. I mean, like, let's just go through this. Like, even just look at the site for a second. Look how well organized things are. I mean, like, this is a cut above. It really is. I mean, you've got everything from the way these buttons, like, I'll say feel, because I guess you could say there's a feel to them, to just the little animations of these images coming in. Like, you guys put some serious thought and effort and serious work into everything here. I mean, even, like, the branding is awesome. And I think this question here from Adam is an interesting one as well. Like, where did the idea and significance of the Pulsar top logo come from? Or even, I would even stretch it to why Pulsar in general as well, because that's a very interesting, call it, I don't know if you call it entity. It's an interesting phenomenon, maybe is a better word for it. And why Pulsar and why the top?
Well, the name Pulsar itself, I can't take credit for. That
Right.
is with GIF and the rest of the team there. Just the branding itself, the face, the facade, you might say. So again, and the funny thing enough is when this was created, the idea wasn't to like say mimic a top. At the end, we kind of looked at it and we're like, huh, kind of looks like a top a little bit. And then, thinking about ways that you can kind of meme it, right? It could be like Inception, since that's very top specific movie. And then, we kind of just rolled around with the ideas and it kind of snowballed from there.
Well, and the Inception idea really made a lot of sense because there's a lot of Inception game theory and thought behind what can be done with this in the future. No promises, no guarantees from the team that anything will ever be done, but that there's so much opportunity. And so it was like, it's kind of got a double entendre, which actually Crypto Derp is the one that pointed that out.
Yep, and it's a dream within a dream. And that's what I was just saying in chat is that Crypto Derp or Guru and I have been storytellers and old friends for over a decade. And this is how we think. You first got to get an idea, look at it, step away, come back, look at it, step away, come back. And that's the difference, again, between forking something and building something that has so many threads of actuality and an onion layer to open up. And as Kinetics has been saying, there's a lot more that we haven't shared that you will be excited to discover for yourself.
Yeah, I want to give these two guys a lot of credit here on the art side. These guys are willing to build something, it be beautiful, and then throw their baby away and start fresh and brand new. And that's difficult to do when you're so vested in time and energy into something. So the fact that they're willing to do that refining, to throw that chaff in the fire and refine it, and find something different. And like I said, throw out the baby with the bathwater and start all over again. That's not easy for anyone to do when you've spent any amount of time doing something.
No, not at all. Not at all. I can attest that as a former music producer and songwriter. That's like, you get so attached to things. So it's a skill. It's a very, very, very what's the word? Not acquired, but yeah, it's a pretty big skill to have. So the fun and the fact that you guys have the detachment able to come up with this end product, I think, is really cool. I mean, even if you guys haven't seen already, where are you here? I'm gonna make you a big screen there, Kool-Aid, and if I can give you the line. I mean, for one, let's take a moment to appreciate this backdrop that Kool-Aid's made. How did you come up with this, real quick? In the top two, I think it's cool.
I mean, just kit bashing. This is, in fact, I had an even cooler render last night that I kicked off before I took my power nap, and I had to get up and do this. But this little asteroid over on the left-hand side decided to spin at 3,000 rotations per second, and I'm like, well, I gave you 4 hours unattended, and you decided to go crazy on a render. But I mean, this is what we do. And I think the impairment thing about someone that wants to try to do art is they get attached to it. But an artiste knows they have to kill their babies 1,000 times over to refine it down to the purest of gesture. And to concur that with how Gifford and I work together, I'm very spatial. He's very practical. We're both designers and architects. However, he can code, which means he can't do anything that I can't. So we work in a symbiotic relationship that works so heavily together. But again, from my professional career, you have to delete everything 1,000 times over to get to that pure gesture of the line. And it should be that with code, tech, ability, and all the rest of that type of stuff to make sure that you're actually honing, refining, and more importantly, continuing on the gesture of that line.
I think something you brought up there is really interesting. The whole symbiotic relationship. I think you don't normally see as many founders, working together on a project, and I think it takes very unique circumstance to make it all work together. And I'm really curious with you guys, how does 4 or 5 founders work together and actually, put their heads together to make something like this? Like, what do you guys all bring the same thing to the table, or do you guys, how does this work behind the scenes? Like, do you guys all have different aspects that you bring to the table? Obviously Crypto Derp and Crypto Kool-Aid, we just talked about the art and the the branding side, but I know GIF, we spoke about this, and I really want to bring this up, is how do you guys work together to make 4 or 5 founders really be cohesive and make something like Pulsar come alive?
GIF, he was asking you.
Oh, sorry. You know, I think the key is that you have to respect each other's skills. And, you know, one of the hardest things for me that I would say multiple times, and I think Crypto Derp and Kool-Aid could attest to, is they may ask me what looks good to me, and I'll be like, this is what looks good to me, but I don't know anything, man. Like, my artistic skills are very limited. I can't draw. I have no idea what looks good. And that's what I would say a lot of the times to them. And you know, I would learn from them. Like they would teach me, especially on the logo design itself. I tried to spin up a couple logos myself, you know, right after I came up with the word Pulsar. Decided that was the direction I want to go on. I tried to make my own images, and they were terrible. And you know, a couple meetings with Crypto Derp, and all of a sudden it all starts clicking for me. I was like, all right, I kind of get where your madness is coming from. This makes sense. You're showing me practically why this is better, and now I can wrap my head around it. So that's the key in every aspect of the Pulsar founding team, is somebody brings forward what they're really good at, and we're able to recognize that and listen and learn from them. And that's what makes this team so strong. And we've always allowed people to come in who has a great asset that they want to contribute to. We've got guys that are kind of circling our eternal founder team. We got guys circling that want to get involved, and they're showing us some of their skills, and we are open arms. We're like, yes, we got to build this thing together. If it's built together, then you're not waiting on this one dude and be like, hey, Dev, when upgrade, right? That's the scenario we're trying to stay away from. But I don't want to go too far on a tangent. Just wanted to say we respect each other's talents, and that's how we get it to work.
Yeah, and that's a very good point. And then I do have to fly on it for here because I've got my stand-up for the day jobs. But this has been a great conversation. But we are a flat ecosystem as founders, people, and personalities. And we trust each other flatly with the skills that we bring to the table to listen to each other unilaterally about what we do. And again, I think that's the difference that, you know, in game dev, people think, oh, you use the word game and dev, you must be a programmer. There's 100 different sub specialities that go into bringing something interactive that's really alive to your plate. And people don't realize how that threaded system works. And over here, we really put that fundamental thing to bring the best people with the best energy, with the best ideals into a flat structure. And that'll show through our tokenomics. That'll show through our art. That'll show through our throughput. That'll show that what we're building now, again, is just infrastructure. I mean, you can't have expectations, but we love to build and we love to think. And if you've been anywhere around T-Share, Hex, or Discourse Syndicate, you know what our tenements are. And that's vastly interesting. But guys, I do have to fly. So I'm going to take the spaceship with me, and you guys have a fantastic one. And this has been a great conversation.
We'll do. We'll see you later, Kool-Aid.
Have a great day. Thanks for being here. Appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely, bro. I wanted to add to that. I think it really started with we all shared some deep underlying principles and morals that we all wanted to build in a way that wasn't a max extractor for the user, a way that we could actually continue this experiment of DeFi, come up with new bold ideas, and then the skill sets. None of us had there's very little crossover between all of our skill sets. And if there was a lot of redundancy, there wouldn't have been a need for so many people, honestly. I mean, if one person can do it all, then let them go do that. But we would rather take the best of the areas that people have their strengths and utilize those strengths. Because this isn't about max profit for us. This is about, hey, we want to build and we want to continue to build for a long time to come. So we want things that are going to last a long time. So we have to come up, and thanks to Gifford, I got to give Gifford so much credit on fixing all the leaky boats of all the different tokenomics that we've seen out there. As great as TITANX is, there's some leaky boats there. And it's better than most. Let's just put it that way. So I don't want to discount anything that Jake's done, because actually I think this team has more faith in TITANX than Jake himself does. We've had conversations with Jake, and I think we actually believe in this thing more than he does. If, as a standalone product, TITANX by itself, but we saw the opportunity to build on something that was so well built. So it was really, coming together, like-minded people that wanted to do something long-term and wanted to be a value add versus a value extraction with a bunch of different skill sets, to answer your question in my words.
I love that. I think it's very eloquently put. And I think I would love, we could have a whole stream, honestly, on the background of you guys and kind of the why. And I think it'd be an amazing conversation. But I know, Gif, you've got a time crunch here. And I wanted to ask one quick question. Obviously, thanks, Fritz, for the question. When PULSAR, first of all, and yeah, let's just start there, and then I'll follow up my second question afterwards.
Sure. Well, I could just give you a basic update, right? The basic update is audits done, or code's written, audits done. I am going to be working on doing some internal testing. I've probably still got another week of internal testing just to make sure, right? Triple check everything, make sure everything's perfect. And then we're going straight into test deployments. And then that's it. So we're running out of things to do. And as soon as we run out of everything to do, then we'll try to give the community a fair heads up, which in my book means 5 business days. And that's about it. But also keep in mind that there is no built-in mechanic to incentivize people to participate early.
In fact, we don't want you to participate at all. No one participate. So my anti-sales pitch right there.
It's pretty good. It's convincing.
In fact, you're not allowed to participate. I don't care if you want to. You can't participate. So
on the participation front, though, when people, I know, Gif, you got to go pretty quick here, but I have one last question for you if you're good for time here. The protocol fee, you called it the permeable tokenomics. Why? What does that mean? What is that thing?
Yeah, this is something we could tear apart for a whole episode too.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm going to stick to some broad strokes here. The broad strokes are this. In the PulseChain ecosystem, there is a token called PulseX. I think that might be one of your favorite tokens, actually, Graphics, if I'm not mistaken. It's up there on your list. And the whole burning idea of burning tokens, right? Interesting, because you're just reducing supply, right? But the buy and burn adds a new complexity to it. So what's really happening is you're taking tokens and you're removing it from circulation, but you've used economic energy to obtain it in the first place. So essentially what you're doing is you're creating a permanent bullish economic move is what you're doing. Now, when we get into token creation, which is what we're doing with PULSAR, when we bind a significant value to the buy and burn, what that essentially does is that takes it takes a large amount of economic energy and creates a permanent bullish value creation, right? So it's like somebody coming in with a big bag, buying and never selling. That's about as permanent bullish as you can get on any token in crypto or stock or in any investment, right? Knowing that you're going to buy and never sell. That's what we're doing. That's what permeable means. We're coming in with a significant amount of value. We're purchasing that token and we're burning it out of existence forever.
And I think the important thing to understand with that too is, like, especially if launch happens at these price points for TITANX, I mean, the majority of the cost of creating the token is going to be used in this manner as well. Like the majority of the economic energy is going to be put back into this bullish sentiment and initially, which, I mean, that's a really cool thing for a starting setup for a protocol, if you ask me, where the majority of the economic energy is going to be put back in some form or fashion. And the one thing I do want to ask too, because I know this is actually, I think this is the first time it's been in a white paper, is where the admin keys have been disclosed. And with this permeable and the buy and burn, for one, I really thought that was awesome. There are a few changes that can be made to the permable's ability to use this ETH. So would you mind explaining, what those are?
Yeah, and I'll even preface by talking about TITANX's permeable. Well, not their permeable, but their buy and burn, right? So when it comes to the buy and burn, I hear a lot of people in the TITANX community talking about, like somebody needs to increase the buy and burn, right? Somebody needs to adjust the buy and burn. We need more buying and burning. We've got a stack of ETH there. I'll just speak for myself. When I got involved in the TITANX ecosystem, I had zero expectations of that buy and burn. Mm-hmm. My expectation is that zero amounts of that was going to be used. Zero. The whole idea is that it's being earmarked for that purpose. That if those tokens are to be used in any sense, that's what it's going to be used for, right? And I think that should be the similar mentality going into PULSAR. So there will be an ability to set the amount of ETH that will be used to buy and burn PULSAR, along with a frequency. Now there's also a slippage monitor, but it's less interesting, right? So that being said, there should be no expectations of any buy and burn, but just know that that is what the Ethereum is earmarked to do.
Right. And is there a V1 and a V2, or is it just going to be just a singular?
So I can't talk a whole lot on what we're doing on V2, but let's just keep in mind that the V1 version has a centralized component to it, right? A centralized entity deciding what the frequency and amounts of the buy and burn will be. Our desire for V2 is to fix that centralized mechanic.
So it's going to be like when we say decentralized, that second one will actually be decentralized. It's not going to be faux decentralization. It will be like an automated interval and amount throughout time that can just continuously be called. Is that what I'm hearing?
That question I cannot answer for you. I apologize.
Okay, no problem. No, that's good.
Is to fix the centralized nature of the V1.
Got you. Okay, I see where you're going with this. No more questions on that front. I love it. So really, the only other thing I really want to cover here, which I've been seeing a couple questions. I know there's a one earlier from, I think it was Robert Smith. Thank you for this question. I think this is a really important one for people to remember because Hyper hasn't showed up yet. So there's a couple things that really haven't, or something that hasn't really come online called the burn pool, right? But there are other incentives that happen when you participate in something like PULSAR that I'd love for you guys to outline so we can talk about, what other opportunities there are and why people will want to mint PULSAR outside of just potential arbitrage opportunities alone.
TITANX, do you want to hit some of that?
No. Okay. I want you to. I've dominated this conversation, and you've got so many brilliant things to say. People need to understand just how brilliant this team has been, and I'm just been along for the ride. So don't give me any credit. Go ahead, sir.
So the question is, beyond the permeable tokenomic and beyond the arbitrage opportunities, is there any other mechanic that could provide some sort of value creation? Am I getting that question correct?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I know.
Without talking about or without giving expectations, I will not talk about anything that could be built in the future, but currently standing, those two things alone, they're enough.
Right.
They're enough. And everything in crypto is an experiment, especially new stuff, brand new ideas, brand new way of doing things, way to interact with contracts, way to interact with bridges, right? It's an experiment. There's always a degree of risk every time you interact with a smart contract, and this is why we were sure to put this at the bottom of our white paper. Every time you interact with a smart contract on any network, you are assuming risk that something will not work correctly. So just keep that in mind. PULSAR has not fixed that, and I don't think any crypto will ever fix that. That will always be what's called a smart contract risk, right? Beyond that, I think when you create a new token and it's binded by value creation of two other tokens, one being Ethereum and one being TITANX, you can assume that the value creation could follow their parent tokens in a derivative way, right? And when you're not just simply a derivative of one token, but you're a derivative of two tokens, now you've got kind of a hedge between one and the other, right? If one's going down but the other one's going up, you're good. If token B is going up but token A is going down, you're good. If they're both going up, you're compounded. And if they're both going down, well, we're probably in a bear market. Right?
Yeah, fair point.
Yeah.
So that being said, there's going to be a lot of mechanics in this, and I want to address one thing really quick before I run out of time. Right now on Ethereum, it costs you $186 to swap an ERC20. On PulseChain, it costs 0.009 cents. So not even 1 penny to do that same swap. And you don't need to interact with our protocol on Ethereum whatsoever. You can simply be on PulseChain, and we are bringing the liquidity over that matters. We're bringing over TITANX and we're bringing over PULSAR as eTitanX, which is already over there, just in very small amounts. We're bringing over the thick liquidity, and that's what we need on PulseChain is PULSAR and TITANX. So just keep that in mind.
100%. I think that alone has so much value. Kinetics, when you brought it up earlier, that grinding halt, I think, everyone's kind of prepared for it, but it's going to be a real bummer for a lot of people that are really hoping to get in on, some opportunity, and it's going to cost them the same amount as the value they want to input into whatever smart contract just in the gas fee alone.
And now you have to 2x just to break even. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. You have this, your floor price is now raised above your head,
Yes.
and you're now underwater almost automatically. So,
and it with a 280, my son wanted to start a miner last night. And so we started a TITANX miner. The ROI is -21 on a 280 day. So you guys have to, you have to think about that. So if your gas fee is as much as the actual protocol fee to get started, then you're actually technically you're 121% underwater. So you're compounded.
It's crazy to think about things like that. And it's important though to understand that this is going to exist over on PulseChain, and that you need to understand that when things are happening, they will happen, that this is available. And one of the other things I want to add in too for the incentives is to remind people that you will get access to the burn pool in or in the TITANX protocol. So you'll be entered. If you come in here to PULSAR and you go ahead and mint, you're going to be entered into the burn pool. And at this point, that burn pool is only going to be turned on when Hyper goes live, which we don't know when that's going to go live.
That's our assumption, is that
right.
Jake will wait till it benefits his new protocol to turn on the burn pool. And we're okay with that. We're okay with that expectation. And why not? I mean, it's his creation. We total and full support of that. But there is an additional bonus to the user that does use that down the road.
Right. It all adds up. I mean, I think Lawrence had a good point here. He's like, and it's infrastructure. You should not have expectations of an infrastructure token. It's building blocks. But I think, when you think about something like that, I mean, TITANX is a building block, and it's only going to get more valuable over time. And if this is built on that, I mean, this infrastructure token could get very, very rare and valuable very quickly, especially because it's even more limited in its inflation. It's more in creation than inflation, if you will. And I actually like that word better for that. One of the questions now, I just want to check, how's everyone doing for time on stream right now? Does anyone?
I'm good. I could go for another hour with some of the things we haven't discussed yet, but and I can stay on a little bit longer if anyone else needs to run. But I'm definitely want to utilize these gentlemen while we have them here.
Yeah, absolutely. If everyone's all good, Lawrence actually had a good question here. Can you speak to the IPFS and how that's all going to work on PulseChain? I think it's an interesting question because the IPFS throws people for a loop on a lot of fronts, but it's also important. And I'd love to hear from you guys, like what you're doing on this front in conjunction with PULSAR.
Yeah. So IPFS is super cool, right? Interplanetary File System. I mean, come on. That's just a cool name.
When I heard that was the actual name, I couldn't believe it, honestly.
Right? I mean, you gotta love Google it. It's great. Fantastic. But so anyways, it's a decentralized way to launch anything on the internet, right? It kind of works like a BitTorrent where everybody uploads file systems in a decentralized way. prevent any centralized entity from shutting it down, right? So we saw over on PulseChain, Richard Hart and his team kind of leading the way as they usually do, putting up the let's see, they put hex.com up on IPFS, they put PulseX up, they put the PulseChain bridge. So if you're going to go ahead and bridge your tokens over to PulseChain, you'll be using an IPFS interface to do so, which is why it probably looks weird when you go there. We wanted to do the same thing. I mean, why not? Why not decentralize our mint page? And to be specific, the website that you guys have been visiting so far is our centralized page, and that page will remain centralized. However, when you go, if you want to interact with our smart contract and you want to create PULSAR for yourself, you'll be clicking on a mint link, and that will be taking you to the IPFS front end. Now, we're going to make our front end a little bit more user-friendly than the PulseChain team has. There's a way we can do that, so we're going to innovate a little bit on that. But yeah, you don't have to worry about us shutting down the website. We will launch it on day one, and everybody will have access to it. It will have its own hash and everything, so it can never be taken down.
Yep. 100%. I think it's important we do that. And thanks to Crypto Derp here, again, to speaking to his skills, he really focused on mobile access as well. Now, personally, I won't do crypto on a mobile. That's an added additional attack vector to your crypto experience. But a lot of this world uses crypto on their phones. And Derp here was like, no, man, we got to make it mobile. And he's optimized the site, not just for desktop, but also for mobile, just for those users that are going to feel that pain if it's not available. So just another kudos to Derp down here to make that happen.
Just kudos to the team in general. I mean, on all fronts, it seems like you guys are just a well-oiled machine.
We tried to break everything. As we were building this thing, we came up with 1,000 different ways to break this thing. And okay, so what happened? If this, then that, and went through a lot of those scenarios. And it's taken us longer to develop as a result of that. But we're dealing with people's finances here, or the protocol is, I should say, because we're not handling anybody's fund. Those funds don't go to us, but it's other people's economic value. So they need to have some confidence that this thing is going to work correctly and it's not going to break and lose people's money. These things are important.
100%. I want to just address Harvey asked, and I know I don't want to get into like the depths of everything here, but would you guys, whoever feels called to do it, just kind of comment on Harvey's question here. So his question is, how is a phone an added attack vector? He's saying it's literally safer than a computer. So what's the concern with the phone?
I'll give two quick ones just from my background. I was in telecommunications for 2 decades.
Mm-hmm.
The main attack vectors are this. One, people have a tendency of screenshotting things on their phone,
mm-hmm.
and they tend to screenshot seed word phrase or private keys, and those auto upload to certain clouds that have been known to get hacked. I personally know somebody who was a part of the Apple hack, and he got his seed word phrases stolen from that. The second thing is generally, and this is an old school thing, but generally we used to upgrade every 2 years. We used to upgrade our phone every 2 years. Now it's like every year we're upgrading our phone. Every time you upgrade your phone, you typically have to turn it in order to take advantage of some promo that they got going on. When you turn in your phone, your seed phrases, if you did not use a hardware wallet to interact with your phone, which, as far as I know, there's only Ledger that really does that well. But if you didn't use a hardware wallet to create your seed word phrase on there, your seed word phrase is still on the motherboard of that phone and can be extracted. It's not necessarily that it will be. It's not like there's somebody in the back room at your local phone store trying to extract seed word phrases, but just know it's an attack vector, right? If you're using desktop computers like I do, I dispose of my hard drives when I'm done with them, and I upgrade into a new computer. So I never had that problem. No computer. Best Buy is not going to take my old hard drive and give me like $1,000 on my new computer. Like that ain't going to happen, right?
Mm-hmm.
So those are the two obvious attack vectors that I have, and Ken might have some more.
Yeah, I think one of the things to think about is I'm a big proponent and advocate for hardware wallets. Yes, they're a little more more interaction, a few more buttons to push to interact with something, and it may not be the best way to do day trading, which I don't participate in that anyway, since 98% of people lose. And the people that do win usually typically win less than they lose over the long term. So I use hardware wallets. I truly believe in them. I don't know of a hardware wallet that is available on a phone personally. Gift just spoke about how the seed word generation through Ledger does it pretty good as far as mobile is concerned, but for an actual hardware device wallet. So whether people realize this or not, if you create a MetaMask and account even on desktop, and this is definitely true for a phone as well, those seed phrases are encrypted, but they are still on that motherboard of both your computer and your phone. With a hardware wallet, those seed private key, I'm sorry, private key. The private key is stored off device. So even if someone got a hold of your computer, there's no way that they could interact with your wallet. So if all they have to do is use a code breaker of some sort, break your MetaMask password, your weak password that you know is weak that you created for your MetaMask, so you can get a quick sign in. And this goes for both computer and for iPhones as well as Samsung Galaxies. Someone hacks that MetaMask password, and they can reveal those seed phrases anytime they want to. So that's just another added attack vector.
And we've known people getting SIM swapped as well.
Absolutely.
That's a big risk. I mean, there was a guy in what was his name? Hex 87 or what was he was you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Hexen 91, or what is his name? I can't think of it off the top of my head. Yes, he's an older gentleman.
Yeah.
I mean, hundreds of millions of hex gone. Yeah. Hundreds of millions of hex. At the top was almost worth $1 billion.
It's heartbreaking, man. But that happens. He's not alone. I've heard about that from multiple different people. It's not the most common necessarily, but it doesn't need to be common to be an issue in an attack vector. That's something that I consider. So I think hopefully, Harvey, you're seeing the light now and understanding that, there are risks, and of course, teach their own, but you got to,
if you're going to use crypto on a wallet, don't make it be your primary wallet that you're holding long term. Maybe something that you're just buying in and out of meme coins or something of that nature. That's maybe 10%, and the number is arbitrary, but some percentage of your full crypto portfolio is on a phone. But I definitely recommend either you guys get yourselves and you can either create a MetaMask, write the seed phrases down, put crypto on it, and then etch it into metal, and then delete that MetaMask instance from your computer. You might have to do it several times for it to actually be really effective. Or just use a hardware wallet. So that's why I like having something that's not stored on the system.
Yeah, I would agree. The hardware wallet and I mean, even with the hardware wallet too. I mean, this is a whole discussion, so I'm trying to go off the deep end with it. But I mean, even using a Trezor, that's my weapon of choice on that front, and it takes an extra 5 to 10 seconds to do any transaction at most. So
yeah,
I think the more you get used to it, the more you get comfortable with it. It's so simple, so fast, and it's not cumbersome in any way, really. If anything, it feels better because you're the one actually clicking, okay, yes, done, okay. Now it goes through. You have the extra layer of feeling attached to the security of what you're doing, which I think is fantastic. And everyone should really get in touch with that and get used to doing that, especially coming into the bull run when, if you're in PULSAR and PULSAR is mooning and you've got it on your phone, you're possibly at risk. If you got it on your hardware wallet, you're less likely to see those funds go away if you're worth the money that you've dreamed of having in your wallet. That would really suck.
Yep, absolutely. Don't risk it all.
Absolutely. So, okay, let's transition away from security real quick. The Hexel had one question here, and then I want to bring it back to you guys about what are we not talking about that PULSAR has kind of under the overview that we've gone over and under the mechanics themselves. Before we get there, Hexel, I just want to address your question. Can you touch on whether PULSAR will be a net benefit to TITANX?
Yes. So if you remember back before the launch of TITANX and in the early days of TITANX, one of the biggest things and one of the biggest narratives going around was build on TITANX. The whole point of build on TITANX is to burn TITANX. You need to incentivize users to take their TITANX that they've minted as inflation and burn it as to make it, anti-inflationary, right? Make add some sort of disinflation to it, to the model. That's the whole point. If you create a good protocol, then there will be lots of TITANX burnt. If you create a protocol that's not great, then less people interact with it and less is burnt, right? So in either scenario, it's a net benefit for the whole ecosystem to build on TITANX.
100%. I think that's it's fairly easy to understand with the way you've just outlined. There's direct benefits it's going to have, and possibly even very short term, we could see effects from it too. So
I have an idea. I see a scenario here. Obviously, burning TITANX is a great benefit to the whole ecosystem, and you also get an additional miner bonus in the future. So new additional miners created in the TITANX ecosystem, you will get an additional bonus to the amount of TITANX you'll get out of that miner. So that's already, and Jake was brilliant in creating that in there, incentivizing people to burn it so that they can create more inflation later and get a better bonus out of it. But I think I see a scenario, and it can go both ways. Crypto goes both ways. Markets are irrational. But piggybacking off of what Gift said earlier, when you're a derivative of two different tokens, say TITANX is going down, but Ethereum's still going up, and our major liquidity pool is through Ethereum. What if, just imagine this scenario with me, the price of PULSAR becomes so out of whack with TITANX because it continues to go up, then is there not a net benefit for you to burn more TITANX to get more PULSAR cheaper than you could buy it off the market? Is that not a net benefit to TITANX?
But wait, Ken, what if I don't have any TITANX? Then what am I going to have to do?
Well, you can buy it really cheap off the market and still run it through the protocol and still come out ahead.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, I wish some really brilliant guys had thought of something of that nature.
You guys are hilarious.
These are how our conversations go. These are the backroom conversations we have. Oh, wait, guys, but what if? Well, I don't know. What if? Let's run through the scenario.
And on that front, I just want to ask you real quick. So this question is an interesting one. So what makes you think PULSAR will go up? I mean, obviously there's the permable, but what makes you think PULSAR will go up and not do something like what we're seeing with DragonX, which may or may not be temporary? No one has a damn clue, but I just love to hear from you guys. What do you think of this question here?
Well, I love what they're doing over at DragonX. I like their style. I like their initiative. I like their no nonsense. I actually kind of do. I think they're hilarious, honestly. But as far as when you're talking about, it looks like you're talking about price. Why is DragonX going down with TITANX? Well, in order to get DragonX, you just turn in your TITANX. So the arbitrage was there on day one, right? There was a fair amount of people who went in and just bought DragonX off the market. It was kind of aping in, right? And then arbitragers were like, hey, there's a quick buck to be made here. Let me go ahead and send in my TITANX to mint DragonX, and then I'll sell that on the market and be able to get more TITANX than what I just started with.
And that happened really quick.
Real quick. Because we all know, hey, man, we're from icosahedron. We know about the arbitrage and the ceiling prices, right? So that was obvious. And the way that they're scaling out is they're making it harder and harder to get the same amount of DragonX for every one TITANX, right? You guys all know about that. If you're in the TITANX ecosystem, you know about this. Eventually, they're going to be scaled all the way out, and they'll be now detached from the TITANX price. But in the meantime, they will be very closely linked. They'll be holding arms on that price chart until something like that happens. And then at that point, then it's going to be a different paradigm. Then they're going to have to stand on their own at that point in time. We just got to wait and see what's going to happen there. For us, speaking for us, if our protocol mandated that all you had to do was turn in TITANX, then yeah, we'd be linked with TITANX the exact same way. But what we did differently is at the point of when we were creating the ratios of what it took to create PULSAR, we had a list of prices, right? We knew what TITANX was at the time, and we knew what Ethereum was at the time, and we tried to make it as equal as possible, so it takes equal parts of both sides. Now, since that point in time has transpired, now we're in a situation where Ethereum's running like crazy today, if you want to look at the price chart, and look at TITANX that is still suffering the inflation, right? That means that in order to create PULSAR, you're more attached to Ethereum than you are TITANX, because it costs more in Ethereum to create the token than it does in TITANX, right? So what that means is that the value of Ethereum is going to affect the value of PULSAR more so than TITANX. So just think about that.
Yeah, I think
that alone.
I think
ahead,
on top of that, we have a higher buy and burn too. Since the majority of the value to get into the PULSAR protocol is going to be Ethereum at this point in time, and that could change in the future. TITANX could have a stupid crazy run that the Ethereum's the cheap side of the equation, but for now, Ethereum is what drives the most of our buy and burn. 90% buy and burn. 90% of that ETH collected goes to a buy and burn. So it's going to build up a war chest in a ratio to the supply of PULSAR versus TITANX that is of a greater ratio than what you see with wrapped ETH and TITANX currently on the market. So another thing, going back to DragonX, why it's lower right now is there's not the same buy and burn happening on DragonX as there is TITANX. It has to wait for new rewards every cycle, every 8, 28, 369. Now, I think you'll see that ratio become a much greater ratio, especially if they turn up the buy and burn after day 369, when how many millions of dollars are going to go into the DragonX buy and burn? But DragonX is also helping TITANX because a portion, what is it, 40% of what is collected through the staking protocol also buys and burns TITANX, and leaving only 60% of that buying power to buy DragonX. So we just went at it with it. We're not saying anything's wrong with that. I think it's got long-term potential, but we just chose to go a different route with it.
And each protocol has, I mean, I think, like you were saying too, Giv, I think I like DragonX. I like the way they've designed it. I like Eric. Eric, awesome dude.
I love Eric.
Yeah, he's fantastic. And PULSAR is just different though. It's going to work different, operate different. It's going to have different market, I guess, dynamics over time, and each has their own benefit and timing aspect to potentially them as well, depending on, opportunities that may arise. So there's no better or worse. It's just all different. And speaking of different, we haven't really talked about what you alluded to, Ken, which is the so much we haven't even gotten into yet about PULSAR. And so I'd like to invite you to, Kate, what haven't we talked about yet? Where do we go from this nice overview where we've got, the Permeable tokenomics, we got the PULSAR pathway, we've got all the ratios we've talked about. What are we missing here? What's under the hood that we haven't talked about yet for PULSAR?
I can't share that information with you. But what I will say is just to touch on that, the whole launchpad idea. Like, we're not a conventional launchpad like most are, where they're, really helping support these coins and vet the teams and get them off the ground and provide some kind of, transparency to the community that wants to participate in it. No, we're more of a, hey, there's an infrastructure over here. There's some really sound tokenomics behind it, so with the Permeable tokenomics that you guys can build on top of that can help your new projects that you build. So here's something to build on top of. And so it's a launch pad in the way of, we've incentivized people to come on and be able to extrapolate on some of the things we've already created. So it's not in competition of any of the launch pads that are launching on PulseChain or any of that nature. Or if they want to build on top of it on the Ethereum side, absolutely. There's a lot of opportunity there too, and we've talked about a lot of that opportunity. But I don't want anyone to construe anything we say as a promise of future work, because there's no guarantees. And if we want to build long term, we did say that, we were clear on that, but we have the right as the team to decide, you know what, we're going to pivot. We're going to do something different than what we were originally going to do, because we see some new information has come along. We've updated our worldview and we see a better way of doing something. So we reserve the right to change our minds on what we're doing in the future. So we don't want to set an expectation that gets people upset in the future.
Well, I think that's important too, because, you know, if like paradigms, as we all know in this space, changing or like changing by the minute, it seems, you know, there's like updates happen, like a new type of contract comes out or new development happens, and, you know, your baby, you know, all of a sudden now is outdated and is lagging so far behind that, like you guys were talking about earlier, you need to throw it out with the bathwater.
Yep.
And I think that is important, as, you know, value you guys hold for your products, is making sure that they are on the cutting edge of the space. And I think for that alone, that speaks volumes to the potential future of what will be built on PULSAR, because I do think strongly that there's going to be a number of things coming for PULSAR. So kudos to you guys for that. And also, I mean, the Pulse Chain community this is an interesting one for me, because the Pulse Chain community is so strong. And if you look at the people that are in TITANX right now, I think you would find a commonality on a large majority of users between TITANX and Pulse Chain. And so when you start bringing all this value over to Pulse Chain, you have a community that's already kind of in both to some degree. You're going to have a network effect happen potentially much faster than if you were just, you know, building on Solana or building on BNB or building on these other chains that aren't linked literally integrally, like Pulse Chain and Ether integrally linked for time. And so you have this super incredibly strong community that you're going to essentially be leaning into a little bit and giving them opportunities that weren't there, and leveraging other opportunities that they may or may not have already participated in. So I think this is like the perfect storm, and leading into the bull run right now too. I think I'm really excited to see how things move over the next few months when PULSAR finally goes live, and to watch, you know, if and when ETH comes to a grinding halt because of gas fees, what happens over to this side of the equation. I'm really excited to see that.
I got a lot to say to that, but go ahead.
Yeah, I think, you know, this may be the greatest contribution to TITANX that any builder could possibly give. And I think, you know, this is one of those things that's probably a next layer kind of, you got to sit back and really think about this before it really sinks in. But, you know, when people ask, like, what's PULSAR? What's that going to do for TITANX? Like, well, for one, we're going to be binding TITANX to Pulse Chain, which has the potential of being the top running layer one in X's in this bull market coming up. It has the potential to do that. And we're the ones that are going to bind TITANX to that. We're going to do that. And we're going to allow the PULSECHAIN whales that are over there to get their hands on TITANX. Because I'll tell you one thing, I'm sure Ken could back me up on this. There's a lot of dudes on Pulse Chain that do not want anything to do with Ethereum anymore. They had their taste. They've had their taste of the gas fees. They've had their taste of the updates that have been made on Ethereum that has caused maybe some damage to some investors, right? And they don't want any part of it. And maybe that's the reason why they never decided to interact with TITANX. We're going to open up that lane for the TITANX community. We're going to do that. We're going to make enough liquidity. We're going to create thick pools over on Pulse Chain to where if those whales decide to buy, trust me, if there's money to be made, arbitragers will bring that across the bridge and diverge that value on the Ethereum side too. So you could be a TITANX maxi, we're helping. You could be an Ethereum maxi, we're helping. You could be a Pulse Chain maxi, we're helping.
That's one of the points I was going to hit on was the tertiary benefit to this that wasn't the primary design, but it just ends up being this way, is that PULSAR is pretty agnostic to which chain. You don't like Pulse Chain, fine. You only need to participate on the Ethereum side. You don't like Ethereum, fine. You only need to participate on the Pulse Chain side. You like TITANX, great. You've got an opportunity to participate. You don't like TITANX, that's fine too. You still have some exposure to TITANX through PULSAR that you don't have to be directly tied to TITANX. It's something that we've a different tertiary benefit than what the other projects we're seeing built out there. And there's no shade on those guys. I love a lot of the ideas that have come out, but we just made it so that you don't have to choose a tribe. You can participate in all three if you want.
I think there's so much to be said, even just like the fact that it covers all the bases, you're going to bring in so many people. You're going to get so many people's attention and get exposure to so many different types of users just from that alone. So my sentiment from this conversation is not going to be sleeping on PULSAR. That's my sentiment so far.
Doesn't matter. You can't participate. You're not allowed. I've forbid all of you from participating.
Right. I will definitely not be participating in PULSAR, and I don't condone it.
Yeah, there's a lot to be said. One thing I did want to mention that we didn't mention about the mechanics earlier is that just like TITANX, we also do have a buy and burn feature for the fees collected on the V3 pools on Uniswap on the Ethereum side. So there's the secondary buy and burn that is from the fees earned. So I do want to throw that out there for everybody.
That's important too. So all that, anything that's earned in the fees, whether it's WETH or if it's TITANX earned in the pools, it's going to be swapped over to PULSAR and then just completely burned, right?
Completely burned. Yep, absolutely.
Sweet.
With the PULSAR that's been earned in the fee as well.
That's actually huge. And what this is something I was thinking about while you guys are talking about the buy and burn, and the way that the value of PULSAR is going to be related to the token supply over time is really interesting, I think, because you're going to have this right now, the value is going to be predominantly based in ETH, right? And if 90% of that value is going into a mechanism that is designed to buy and burn the token, I mean, there is going to be a specific number, and this is going to move over time. There's going to be an average that you can kind of look to and forecast in the future based on maybe some expected prices of how much of the supply that this buy and burn is going to be able to affect. And as the buy and burn is more predominantly or if the protocol, the token is more based in ETH in the beginning, like the amount of tokens that are going to be burned or can be burned in the future is going to go up exponentially. I mean, you're going to have you can even also, I'm going to try and do this off stream because on stream it's a little bit abstract and weird to talk about and kind of figure out how to articulate. But I think there's a way to potentially use the balance of ETH to TITANX to even look into how much potential PULSAR could be taken off the market, over time on average, which is really interesting. So I'm going to do that off stream, so I'm not boring everyone with cracking open an Excel sheet right now. But because that's how to lose all 67.
I like people that brainstorm out loud. I think I get more out of that, and then you can break apart or strengthen that argument based upon those things being done. So maybe you should just have a stream where you're just literally vomiting on the microphone and getting input from the community at the same time.
Might do that. That sounds actually kind of fun. Maybe if one of you guys are up for it, we can hop on, or a couple of guys you're up for it, hop on for a bit and kind of see where that leads. But I don't know if I have any more questions right now. I want to make sure we're covering everything here. So we've talked about the incentives. We've talked about the PULSAR pathway. We've talked about the mint ratios. We've talked about what it takes to create PULSAR. We've talked about, why the benefits. We've talked about even the communities and how it's kind of dipping into all these different sub demographics that all link back to potentially PULSAR. Is there anything else that we haven't covered that those watching and those that will watch should really understand about PULSAR before we close out here?
Some of the other founders out there may not come out and say it, but there's a lot of ideas we've come out with that we've allowed to be leaked that they are incorporating in their protocols. And we love to see it. It's the imitation is the highest form of flattery. And so we're taking that as they may not come out and give us credit for it, but our white paper's there. If you see any mechanics that other people are taking, just as we borrowed from TITANX, because I think there's some brilliant things that Jake came out with. So we're very flattered, and we can't wait to see where this experiment goes.
It is the highest form of flattery. I definitely expect there to be some imitation in the future. I mean, there's even a comment in the chat here, which I would love to verify, but apparently, TITANX Market's talking about they're going to be going on PulseChain now. So if that's the case, well, I mean, there's another maybe piece of inspiration from PULSAR as well. So
it may be. I can't verify where they got that idea, but I know that part of that team are very much hexagons and Pulseidons. I'm not letting go of that term. No one calls it that, but I'm calling them Pulseidons. So if they're going over to the Pulse chain, I think they probably also see the writing on the wall. I mean, look at what gas fees are already. So
Yeah.
Having a whole market on Ethereum is going to be very, very difficult for people to participate if you're not a whale in the next coming months.
100%. I think, you luckily our conversations, you've educated me on like why that's going to be the case. And I think, when you look at something like TITANX market or any of these things that have multiple calls within a function, the gas fees go crazy. And I think that was a very smart move from them if they're moving to PulseChain. So guys, buckle up. I think that we're in for a treat in the coming months. I mean, the bull market's going to be exciting. PULSAR is going to be very exciting to watch. And I seriously can't wait. It's really cool to be able to have. I know TITANX, we met recently with PULSAR, but to have known Giff and Larry and with you guys as long as I have with Icosta and Hedron, to see you guys now here and to meet you, Crypto Derp, as well, and to all be kind of awaiting this grand unveiling, I think is really special. And it's cool that you guys are all in the Hex ecosystem as well. I know we've all kind of been. I've witnessed you on your channel and with Discord Syndicate. From like day one when I got in. You guys were inspiration. I remember watching actually Kinetics in a conversation. I think it was with a senator or some member of parliament.
Cynthia McKinney. Yeah.
I was watching that.
Cynthia McKinney. I had two streams with her. Yeah.
I was watching that stream and I was just like, holy, there's some serious guys here with some serious brain power. And you also have the connections, and I was blown away. And that was part of the thing that originally was really selling me into Hex when I first got in. Now here we are full circle, where now that inspiration, now I'm seeing you building this thing with these guys, and it's just really cool. So,
well, we wanted to build for a long time. It took us about 3 years to get together the dream team. And it's funny because Larry kept going, we got to build. And we're like, yes, we do, but we got to have the right team. He helped bring in an all-star cast. But it's kind of funny. It's very serendipitous that the timing worked out the way that it did. That, hey, we're glad we didn't build when we first wanted to start building. We've been able to observe so many different experiments, see what's worked, what hasn't, really refine what we're doing. And then the timing with TITANX being where it's at, when we saw it come out with its mechanics and where it's at with its price right now, we're like, wow, this is very serendipitous that we were patient and we took our time to do things right. So we're very happy so far, and I have a feeling there's going to be some future grins in our future. So with us grinning at how things are working.
Yeah, sometimes the universe kind of synchronizes things in ways you can't really describe. It's pretty amazing to watch things unfold. I think it's really cool that you guys have landed exactly where you are with the people you're surrounded with, the timing, and everything that is about to unfold with the bull market. I think it's just absolutely
we're
special.
looking at our watches. God's looking at his calendar. So just know there's good things there's good things in store for you, but sometimes it just requires a little bit of patience.
Yeah, well said. Well said. Well, gentlemen, thank you for being here. I don't have anything else. I have all of the links to PULSAR and the Telegram in the description below. But if people want to, or if they should, get in touch with you in any way, maybe on socials or anything like that, where can people find you if they want to interact with you on Twitter or any social media?
Well, you can find me at The Real Kinetics on both Telegram and Twitter. So at The Real Kinetics and KNTX. And feel free to drop your seed phrases in my DMs. I'm cool with that. I'm not disappointed by that at all. Just kidding, guys. For all you that didn't know I was kidding, please don't do that to anybody. Don't ever drop your seed phrases anywhere. So those are the two best places to find me. I'm very rarely on Twitter these days. Got so much going on in the background that Telegram is where we handle a lot of our business. So I'm usually on that, checking that daily.
Yeah, Telegram has always been a number one place for me. I mean, you can go way back and find me on Telegram from a long time ago. So that's the best place to find me. Just come into the PULSAR chat, ask some good questions. You'll probably find Larry or myself in there, totally willing to answer them, and we'll do some more. I really enjoyed the impromptu voice chats over on Telegram. So I'm going to keep pressuring the team to join me on there to do some chats, because those are a lot of fun. And if you don't like Telegram, totally get it. A lot of scammers on Telegram. Just hit me up on Twitter. Totally fine.
And what's the handle for Twitter that people can find you real quick? I'm just going to post in the chat.
Just add Giffordware.
Perfect. And Crypto Derp, are you on socials? Or are you publicly interacting with people, or are you kind of under the radar?
A little bit more of the Wizard of Oz behind the curtain, right? So, I mean, really, Telegram also would be another good place because I kind of hang out there with the rest of the team. So, any questions from there, from this or anything else in general, could just be directed right at that point.
Sweet. So t.me/PULSAR. Let me get the link here real quick, and then I can get everyone. It's in the description below, for sure. But let me just post it into the chat here so everyone can at least, if you want to go.
And if any other people want to utilize the brilliance that is Crypto Derpin, just want you to know he's not going to be cheap. So come talk to me, and I'll broker a deal for you guys. So because there's some great projects out there that I think need a little bit of help on that front. So let me know. We'll make it worth his while, and we'll get you guys set up because we want everyone in the TITANX ecosystem to succeed. We really do. And the Hex ecosystem and the PulseChain ecosystem, we want everyone to succeed. So,
yeah, well said. I think the proof is in the pudding. I mean, if you want a little bit of insight as to what this man can do, I mean, just go to the PULSAR webpage. Just as step one, and you'll see just the quality. And even the backdrop. I think you said you made your backdrop in like what, a minute before you came on, or a couple of minutes before you came on.
Yeah. So just quickly stitch it together to have something at least to, if anyone ever forgot what the website is, it's right up there.
Yeah. Love it. All right, boys. Well, thank you guys for being here. It's a fantastic conversation. I look forward to the future stream. And maybe we should do something when PULSAR goes live. Come on again and do a live update on how everything works and like a demo and everything. I think it'd be a lot of fun and get people excited for it as well. If you guys are up for that, I would be absolutely down. That sounds great.
Maybe when it goes live, we could do a real-time stream and check numbers and discuss the protocol as it goes live. I don't know if we all have time for that or not, but it might be something to consider. And maybe I just put you on the spot for something you didn't want to do, but I'm cool with that too.
I'm cool with whatever. That sounds like a lot of fun to me, actually. So, okay. Well, gentlemen, thank you for being here, and everyone that has been here the whole time, thank you for watching this stream. I had a lot of fun, learned a lot from these guys, and I'm excited for the next ones. And stay tuned for more streams coming very soon. But check you guys out in the next one. Peace and have a great day.